Hello, hello, hello. Can y'all hear me? I'm assuming so. For those of you who are joining, we're going to be having a chat room that you can use found on my website. Now, if you go to my website, go to robotpencil.net, and then you go to, I believe it's classrooms, and then in there's something called Steam Chat, Stream Chat. Click there, and you should be able to join our Stream Chat and hang out with us. And what I am trying to do is make it so that if you're on YouTube or Facebook or on Twitch, you can stay on whatever platform you prefer, and then you can just go there and write your questions. This will allow me to answer your questions directly since I'm on all three different platforms. Here, let's go ahead and share my screen. So yeah, especially since like I don't have the help of, usually I'll have like John and Kaylin and our friend Mike. All three of them are like will like be on one individual platform and be able to answer questions, whatever. But with this, um, see right here. Yeah, look, Kevin Robinson already figured it out. Yeah, if you go to his
Okay.
site, yeah, and
What's
then
up, Ken?
yeah, you can
Shout
just
out to
go there.
Ken.
Yeah, actually, let me just close all this stuff out. Yeah, and that way I can just go ahead and chat with y'all when you join. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, see, people are joining. And so that way you can be on whatever you prefer. Some people prefer YouTube, some people prefer Facebook. So that way you can have it on its own tab, and then if you want to ask a question, we'll check actually right there. Yeah. And so I want to paint a monster, y'all. Monster Mondays.
What's
That's what I'm gonna call it. Monster Mondays.
what's Tuesday? Tech?
Terrible Tuesdays. Draw something terrible.
No, Tech Tuesday, man.
All right, Tech Tuesdays. I was wrong. I was wrong,
Yeah,
everybody.
yeah.
Plus,
Get your mind right. Uh,
and
and
then
then
Wednesday,
Wednesday will be Weird Wednesdays,
Weird Wednesdays.
something weird and abominable. And then
Dirty,
Thursday,
dirty Thursdays.
Thirsty Thursdays.
Thirsty. That's a dirty.
Draw some hose, and
Hoes or
uh,
bros. This is equal
horrors
opportunity.
or bros. Yes, clubbing. Pretty much club like clubbing bros and clubbing hoes. Um,
And then
Thirsty
Freaky Fridays.
Thursdays, Freaky Fridays.
Yeah, you do something that you don't normally do. You pretend to be a different artist.
Okay. I was thinking of a different kind of freaky. Never mind.
Oh my gosh.
I was like, what?
And you thought about the thirsty Thursdays too. I said dirty
I
Thursdays,
go
like
clubbing way too much.
you went thirsty immediately, went
Thirsty Thursdays, half wash,
super
free
super
before 11.
disgusting.
What's Saturdays?
Saturday I'm gonna take a break. But yeah, it would be cool to stream every single day or every other day and just kind of have like a theme and try to paint something along those themes.
You should
Uh,
bring back what politics did. Wet T-shirt Friday. Those are the best.
yeah, I actually had an idea for Fridays, which would have been fan art Fridays, which would have been I would try to paint something that's fan art, like something that I'm into. I haven't done fan art in quite a while. In fact, I haven't even done painting in quite a while. Mostly because I've been really learning web design stuff, you know. And
Yeah.
so anyway, hey Kaylin, can you do me a favor? If you
What
go to
up?
my Facebook profile,
What up?
you don't have to go to my Facebook live chat, but you can just go to the Facebook profile. There should be, I think, right underneath that, probably the next. This one that says "I'm awake." Please leave your questions.
I'm awake.
It's like a
No,
status,
see challenge. Yes. What about that?
and then there should be questions in there that people have asked.
Okay.
If you can just periodically go there and ask a question that's there, I'll start to answer it,
Okay.
and then we'll take questions from the chat that's found on my website. Right,
Okay.
following right after, and then I can do that myself. So you because I know you're painting, but you can just read it once and then just stay close by.
Okay. Whenever you're ready,
Appreciate
we
it.
can.
Yeah, I'm ready. Let's do it.
All
Monster
right.
Mondays, and then I'm going to answer some questions.
Okay. So we got one from Justin Bergo. I don't know if that's how you say it, but
Perfect.
it sounds like it. Nailed it. From Minneapolis, Minnesota. Shout outs to Minnesota. Says reference gathering do's and don'ts of portfolios. I really like to your work, how to study, YouTube video. I think reiteration. I wasn't even a question. Never mind. But shout out to
No,
Justin.
he said something about references, right? Like that was the
Uh,
question.
gathering reference do's and don'ts of portfolios. I really like your how to
Yeah,
study
I think that's his
YouTube.
question, and then everything else is a statement.
Okay. Let me read the rest of it though. I think reiteration of that could be very helpful for those who haven't seen it, even if you just direct people to it. I have a bunch, but I don't want to overload.
Oh, okay. So I'll answer the reference do's and don'ts and portfolios do's and don'ts, I guess. I'm not sure if that's necessarily kind of what he was getting at, but we'll just kind of do the whole shebang. So the reference gathering, the way that I see it is if you don't know what you're doing, then you should gather reference. And I have a more elaborate answer to this, but just so I can keep it light so I can move on. I generally tell people to gather reference for things you just do not know how to paint or you have a hard time painting. A lot of people, for whatever reason, do not do this. They always want to kind of just paint from memory, and if there's nothing there, it's going to be very difficult. And so that's my advice. Really, a big don't is don't assume that you actually know what you're painting. Always assume that you actually don't, and go on the side of caution, meaning like gather reference and so stuff of that nature. Do's and don'ts and portfolios, I would say don't put anything in your portfolio that's reflective of what you don't want to do. Meaning, don't just put like artwork there just because you want to fill out your portfolio. Put artwork that actually says something about what you actually want to do for a living. Even if you're really good at whatever it is that you're putting in there, people aren't like, oh man, you're really good at graphic design, let's make you a concept artist. That's not how that goes. They're just like, oh, you're really good at graphic design, let's make you do graphic design. You know?
Agreed.
Very rarely will they be like, let's give this person a shot, like doing something completely ambiguous to what actually is in their portfolio. That doesn't happen too often. And then with that being said, yeah, the do's, like what's a good thing to do when you're gathering reference? The good thing to do when you're gathering reference is to don't spend too much time, but like gathering lots and lots of reference is a good thing to do. But there's always too much, right? Like you can overwhelm yourself. But having a lot is not bad, especially if you put yourself a good time limit to stop after a while. I really recommend gathering quite a bit of influence so that way you can kind of have a broader guide. And then do's and portfolios. Have a lot of construction in your portfolio, like show how you do things, like get people to know how you think. That's very useful.
Word.
Like thumbnails and iterations and sketches of such, these types of things.
Yeah, good question. Good question. Yeah, definitely put in what you want to do. If you don't like doing something and you put it in there, people are going to be like, oh, this person must love it. Let's hire him for it. And then you're going to be stuck doing it. That's why to this day, I never put UI in my stuff. Even though like I'm kind of decent at it, I'll never. They're like, you do UI? I will lie. I will lie to this day. I'll lie like a rug. I'll
Wait,
be like, I've
can
never
you
done
know how to do
anything.
UI? I actually need to do some UI for my game projects.
Never, man.
No.
Even effects, like I was getting pretty good at effects when we were at Crazy Pixel. Even
Uh,
effects, I will never admit it. Actually, I am kind of doing it now, but this kind of effects is kind of actually fun because like we have an effects artist, and then like he's just like, oh, like help me concept. So like here's some screenshots and do some stuff. Not like, hey, implement it in the game.
yeah.
Like what? Yeah. So I think it's a little bit different. But yeah, don't if you put it in your portfolio, people are going to definitely gonna hire you for it. So UI, that's my thing. All right, you want another question? Or we good?
Yes, let's do it.
All right. Actually, you did a pretty good job on that. It was good timing. Not too long. I thought you might like go on.
I'm
All
trying to
right.
go
Let's see.
faster these days. I have limited time. I have my baby.
You got the baby. Yeah, there you go. God bless him. Okay. One from Abdul Radhamnan Aiden. That's a tongue twister. I'm gonna say his. Anyways, last name is Aidan. What motivate you? Okay, probably not his first language. From Syria. So shouts to Syria. What's up?
Oh, what?
Yeah, dude. That's what it says on his profile. It says Syria, which don't they have things going on right now?
I have no
Or
idea.
he's from Damascus, Syria. So
Yeah, I don't know. I was gonna say I don't know where he's from exactly, but yes, there's good stuff going on there, Kalen.
Yeah, I understand. And he's an Arsenal fan. I like this guy already. Shout outs to him. Says how to stay motivated. What motivates you every day? How to stay motivated and study when you have a full job.
So I tell people it's not about staying motivated, it's about staying consistent. Even if it's small, tiny increments of improvement, just start doing it. And then the more you do it, the better you'll get at it, and the better you get at it, the more you'll want to do it. So, for instance, I'm really getting into web design and web games, specifically just game making. And so every day for the last month or two, I've been just learning a little bit of JavaScript and HTML, and now I'm starting to get really, really good at it. I'm getting pretty gnarly at it. And so, and every day, what ends up happening is I just know a little bit more than I did the day before, and all that information just is starting to add up. And because I was learning so much about web design and coding and just in general, I was able to go back to my website, restructure it, and create all these new features to it that I wasn't able to do before. And it's just a matter of just practice and consistency. I learned this in the last year or two to be really good about it. Like before, I was just doing it as a product of my obsession to get good at stuff, right? But now I'm using it as a tool of patience and resilience to just get good at things that I want to be good at. That before maybe I was a little bit stubborn to even get started. Not because I didn't want to do it, nor did I have the willpower. It was just more of a matter of like, well, once I have time, I'll really dive deep into it. But I
Hmm.
was like, no, I'll just make time. I'll just get started and I'll start doing these things. Like I've always wanted to develop games, and I didn't want to wait around, so I just started making games. And I made two games technically. One of them is called Don't Wink Baby, which I'm actually going to remake, and another one is called 10 Seconds. And they're very short games, but as time will go on, I'll be able to make longer games and better experiences, I'm sure, as I get better at it in general. And I'm using the fact that this is true for almost all things I've ever tried to get good at.
Don't Wake Baby remastered. Are you
Yeah, I'm gonna
serious?
make Don't Wake Baby Mastered.
Master the deluxe edition.
Yeah,
It's a new DLC.
I'm gonna remake it, and it's gonna be epic.
It's
And
gonna be
it's
real
good
epic.
because I have a baby again. So that's what happened last time. I had a baby, and I was inspired by it. And then now I have another baby.
That
I'm like,
trailer.
oh, I'm gonna make another baby.
Baby's back. It's
Yeah.
crazier than ever. That's gonna be the trailer. That's pretty good. All right. Good question. Good question. Shout outs to Damascus, Syria. What's going on? Let's see here. Where is
And
that?
just to update everybody, if you want to ask questions, we have a chat room found on my website. You guys can go to Classrooms, Stream Chat. What the? There you go. Classrooms. Oh, because I'm already in there. Yeah, Classroom Stream Chat. Click on that. Log into a thing. You can have a faux name. You don't have to log in officially, and then just start writing whatever, and I'll just be able to read your comments directly. I'm doing this specifically because I want to be able to do live streams on my own because sometimes I won't have everybody to help me out, like Kaylin, John, and Mike, who usually help me out, which are really helpful.
Mhm. Okay. So
But right
next
now we're
question.
answering Facebook questions. I asked on
All right.
Facebook to ask. So,
For sure. All right. We'll kind of we don't have that many left on here, I think. So let's might be like kind of a two-parter from Billy Blue.
oh, what's up, Billy?
My boy Blue. My boy.
I know
I
Billy.
don't know
Billy's
why
a
I
good
think
guy. No,
really.
I actually do know this person really well.
Oh,
He's
you do?
nice.
That's
Yeah.
an awesome name. I just think of that movie. My boy Blue. Um, Breaking into the industry, getting your first and second job, and time management. Um, Juggling, life, as we always say, art is easy, life is hard. So
Yeah.
yeah. So
It kind of I kind of answered it with my first question, or my second answer, I think, based off of the second question. I mean, and that's just you just got to do it. You got to. And this is specifically on the time management stuff. I have a lot of different responsibilities, especially things that I had to take care of that are just like always looming. But the way that I got around it was just slowly but surely. You know, I had to just kind of stick with it, especially since I had so many things, other things going on. It's really difficult to try to do so many different things. I really rely on patience. Patience is a really great tool. And then one thing that I think I would say to you as well is, Billy, like in terms of getting your break, you just still got to go and talk to people. And if your work isn't any better, you know, you have to get your work better too. Having good work makes it obviously so much easier to start
Hmm.
um, getting work, and then talking to people and putting your artwork out there is another great tool. So, for instance, every time I do these live streams, right? Like, for instance, I'm doing a talk, I'm talking to you guys, and I'm trying to answer questions and doing a painting of a monster. You know, people enjoy it, right? They come and they hang out and they're like, oh, this is nice, you know? And they ask me questions. Oh, this isn't even nicer. Like, he's here, he's answering as many questions as he can. And that's really a great way for people to find out who I am, who haven't found my work before, right? They're like watching people find me who have never heard about me through these things, you know, and they meet me for the first time. They see what I'm doing. They're like, wow, this is interesting. And then, you know, I have like the little uh, tag of like robotpencil.net on my little banner. So it allows them to then potentially investigate more if they would like. And sure enough, like this usually works really well for me. Whether it's that people get more introduced to my work and potentially bring me onto tasks like jobs, or people go get my tutorials. You know, there's a very clear correlation that if I stream, that my tutorials do a little bit better, and then my mentorships generally do even more better because of the same reason. I think what ends up happening is that people see that, hey, this guy might have something to teach, and they take my mentorship, and usually the mentorship goes really well, and people enjoy it. And so I highly recommend you do that kind of stuff. You know, like put yourself out there, no matter what. It's really valuable to build your brand, build your a name around who you are. There's I'm not just the only person who does this. There's many other great instructors and many great artists. So, for instance, the guys over at Brainstorm, you know, they do these like amazing lunch hours, like 1 hour lunch sketches and stuff, you know, and they do it collectively, and they're like these amazing like badass like traditional looking paintings, you know, um, like John Park and James Pake. These guys, you know, they're kicking some serious butt. And they do these paintings, you know, and people find out about it, and they're like, "Wow, these are great!" And then they get more followers, and then those followers then end up, you know, looking deeper into what this person has to offer, and that's how it works, right? Because if you don't say anything, no one's ever going to know. No one's going to ever suspect that you have anything of value, and so you have to put yourself out there. Like I said, obviously, the better you are, and the better work you have, the easier it is, right? And so that part's actually the easiest thing to do, which is getting good work. Getting good work is actually the easiest part, not because it's like really easy to become a really amazing painter. It's just time and effort thing, right? Spend some time and effort, you become a badass in no time. It just takes some time and some effort, and but the other thing also takes time and effort, which is exposure.
Yeah, if you put in the work, it's very easy for a friend to recommend you when you're ready. You know what I mean? Like if you just focus on making good stuff. I mean, this actually happened to me today. I actually had to recommend. This happened a few weeks ago. I actually had to recommend someone for work. Carlo hit me up and was like, "Hey,
Oh
do you
yeah.
know anyone?" And I was like, "Yo, this is guy. Like he was in my class. He did good work.
Oh nice.
Um, and you check out. I didn't say he should hire him, but I'm like, he's
Check out,
good. He
check out
did
his
he did
stuff.
well in my class. You know, he worked hard. He takes direction very very well. And here's what he did in my class. Like here's his work. Here's his website.
Hmm.
And then next thing you know, like literally like the next day, he messaged me. He was like, "Dude, I got some freelance man from him. Thanks, dude. I appreciate it." And I was like, "Word." And he's like, "Thank you." I'm like, "Yeah, thank me." He's like, "You were already good. Like
It's
you would have
easier.
got the job if you would applied. Like you would have got the job. It's just more so like I just happened to be at the opportune time.
Hmm.
But your work has to be awesome. Your work has to be dope in order for you to get the job anyway, right? If I just recommend
Yeah.
you because I know you, it doesn't mean shit. So I was like, so your work is good. So it's putting you in a position where you can do what you do, which is good work. So, if you do good work, ironically, you will find yourself in position more times than not to showcase that.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. All right. Let's see. The trick to learning any skill.
Patience and resilience.
There you go, from Lewis Daly. And she also said that that's a girl. Okay, it's making sure. No, it's a guy. Nope, it's a guy. All right, sorry. It's hard to tell because I'm not sure. Luis is a guy's name, right? Because I feel like I
It
know a
could
lot of
be.
Luises,
It
but
could
they're
be.
all
It's
girls. It's
one of the.
both.
It could be
Yeah,
both. Yeah. It's like
yeah,
the like Jamie or Alex.
yeah. That's where it got me. Anyways, and
I
also
can hold
said
them in one hand.
lizards are a cool
Wait.
thing to paint.
Wait. Hold on. Just a second. What did you say,
I
Sarah?
can hold them in one hand for a minute
Ooh,
so I can hold
Joe,
the kids
what?
to bed.
Oh,
And
I'm
then
gonna
I'll
hold my
finish.
baby for 1 second. Well, my wife puts the other babies to bed. Yeah, it's all right, little dude.
Kid, raise your kids. Okay. Let's see here. So yeah, it said also lizards are awesome to paint. And then we got one from. Let's
Yeah, but
see.
patience and resilience. Put all your
Patience.
talent points into that, guys. My son, he's like, "What? What'd you say to me?"
Shut up.
He was like passing out, and then his eyes just opened up wide.
Okay, we got one from Kirill Jonathan Taylor Brown. Ooh, a four-part name. What's up? Um, he
Okay.
wrote, "Hey man, what are your thoughts on the rise of political activism and renewing interest in oh god okay and renewing interest in socialism? Oh, and tips of learning values and paint from life." Okay. I
So
think you
wait,
wanted me to go on a social, like a political rant, so we're not going to do that part.
yeah, no, we can do it.
God
It
damn it!
won't be a rant either. What was it? It was just like
It was.
political awareness on
I think he was
socialism.
doing it. I think he was doing it sarcastically because you know how you'll write
Uh,
like a crazy like political post and you'd be like, "Oh, here's a painting." So he
I
wrote,
think I
"Hey
see.
man, what's your thoughts on the rise of political
It was
activism
great.
and renewing interest in socialism? Oh, and tips for learning values and learning to paint from life."
So yeah, I'm a big fan of. So like I'm independent in terms of my political view, and I do I have this point of view mostly because I just really don't care about politics, right? But what I do care about is what logically makes sense and what logistically works and evidence of this, right? And so a lot of people will, what I've discovered is both people on the left and on the right go on to the most extreme measures to counter the other person's argument, right? And so, for instance, people on the left will call everybody Nazis that are on the right or white supremacists, and then everybody on the right will call everybody on the left like super like very liberals or socialists, right? And hold on, see, right, hold on. Okay, thank you. And so, uh, both those types of extreme arguments are just kind of ludicrous, right? You're not going to get anywhere if you just kind of come at somebody like full throttle, right? And so I kind of sit right in the middle as much as I can, but a lot of my political views does lean more to the left, right? And I remember having this talk with somebody once, and we were talking about stuff, and she was mentioning how, because I believe that we should have a single payer healthcare system, right? Because it just makes sense, especially someone who's gone through the healthcare system and pays for it. I pay for my healthcare, and it's complete and utter nonsense how much I have to pay, right? It's just so much money, and and for instance, I just had a baby boy, and since I don't have in my insurance, I don't have an employer, I don't have someone who pays for my insurance. I have to pay for it all out of pocket, right? And so even though I was paying every month for health insurance for my whole family and myself, I still had to pay like 2 grand for our hospital stay for the baby. And I'm just like, man, seriously? Like, what if I didn't have that money? Like, you're
Yeah,
gonna
what
just keep my baby at the hospital?
if maybe I'm like raise it?
Anyway, let's not get into it, right? So my point is that where I stand is what I think is really powerful is that people are starting to realize that the world can be capsized potentially, right? Because you look at all these political people who are being elected or even potentially elected, their point of views are kind of like draconian, right? Pretty intense, and people are finally like, wait, like I thought we were past this type of stuff. And people are starting to say, no, there generally are people that are terrible and want terrible things. And this goes on both sides. Okay, this goes on the sides. I remember someone was arguing with me and was like, well, Obama did this. And I was like, yeah, and that's terrible. And they're like, what? And I was like, yeah, what? Oh, you think You think because I don't like Trump that I love Obama? Oh, you fool. You fool. I was like, I can absolutely hate on Obama too. I was like, you're right. Drone striking places and killing civilians, regardless of who you are, is a terrible thing to do, especially if there's no reason to be doing it. You know? I don't care who you are. And they're like, oh, I guess he's not a liberal, baby. And I'm just like, yeah, man. I was like, no, you're right. Like, that sucks. It's like, but why does that excuse this other person for doing terrible things? You know? And so then I go on this idea. And I remember I was talking with this girl about it because she was like, yeah, single parent healthcare works in all these other countries. It like, blows my mind that America doesn't have it. And I'm like, yeah, I know. And it's like, and I told her, it's like, don't get me wrong, like competition works. Like competition in business works really well. And she was like, nah, I don't think it does. And she went on to this, like all these different arguments. And I was like, no, it does because you have a supercomputer in your pocket. Like that's because of a product of competition, you know? Like your cell phone isn't a great example of what competition looks like. Our social networks is a great example of what of competition looks like. When it's controlled and regulated in a way where it's a little bit more open and people aren't like necessarily in control, right? I said totally. Like I believe in capitalism at a lot of levels, but at the same time, extremes of everything can be bad. Extreme socialism can be bad, and extreme capitalism can be bad. Right? You have to have a little bit of everything, and you got to have it like balanced out. Like there's a way to balance it all out. So, for instance, one of the things that shouldn't be treated as a business should be healthcare and education, because it's not about equal results; it's about equal opportunities. Meaning that I shouldn't have to worry about my health, and that if I go to the hospital, that I'm going to go broke, and I shouldn't have to worry about like if I want to better my life and my career, I shouldn't have to worry that if I make the wrong choice in my major or my educational path, that I also will go bankrupt and then also have a low quality of life, right? Like just because you go to college doesn't mean that you are now granted a great job and career. You still should earn it, you know? It just means that if you're dirt poor and you live in the freaking ghetto and you have no access and no fault of your own, you just had bad luck. Your parents had bad luck, and then their parents had bad luck, and you just have a really terrible situation. But if you did good in school, somehow, some way, you can still go to college and have a better life for your future, you know? Uh, Other than the alternative, which most people go into crime or some sort of, right? So that I believe in that. I believe that socializing these types of things makes sense. But other things should be regulated and shouldn't be regulated and should be left to the free market, right? I believe in that. I agree. I agree with both our sides, and I think that's the problem that I see with a lot of political arguments is that people will not concede to some truth that the other side might have, you know. And that's the whole problem with this whole thing. And so that's kind of where I stand politically. And I think it's nice that people are actually starting to talk about it, even if they're yelling at one another. You know, like as long as no one's killing each other, having a discussion is nice because people will start to, you know, potentially look inwards. Hopefully, like I did. And so, and then what was the question about painting? Like how they work in your values? Yeah, you just got to look at huh? I'm sorry, say again.
Tips on wait, hold on a second. Let me go back to the question.
Yeah, just to better your values.
Tips on learning values and learning to paint from life. So values and painting from life.
So
What do you got?
yeah, painting from or learning how to paint your values, you just gotta try to paint with limited amount of values. That's helpful. That's one tip. There's many more, but that's the one I'm going to give you. And then painting from life is pretty straightforward. Just paint from life. Just whenever you have a chance, you should do it as often as
Go
you can.
outside. It's a beautiful world out there.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful world. Okay. Beautiful world. How to juggle family. Okay, you kind of already talked about that. All right, here's one by Emily Adams. What's up,
What's up?
Emily?
What's up, Emily?
How to find and gain mentors. How many mentors / coaches you should have. How to know if they are good coaches. and how to find people to mentor yourself and how to be a good mentor. So I think just kind of in general, like how do you find them? It's like
How do
Pokemon.
you
Like how do
find
you catch
mentors? How do you
Pokemon?
be a mentor? How do you mentor mentors? How do you ment in the tours?
Yeah, how do you tour in the Ment?
How do you tour in the mint? um, so finding mentors is actually really easy. You just go online and find people that are amazing and you just follow their work. Uh, Whether you can talk to them or not is really a different question. But there's plenty of people out there that have great tutorials and access. It's the Michelangelo approach, right? Michelangelo, he didn't really have like mentors or teachers as much as, let's say Leonardo da Vinci. So Michelangelo, what he did was just like steal people's paintings and drawings. You don't have to do that. You can just go to like ArtStation and just find people and just kind of like scrutinize and observe and see from afar kind of thing. I did that a lot and it worked out well for me. Um, but at the same time, there are people out there that are teaching individual classes, both online and offline, like some people in physical locations. I am one of those people, right? And so it's all about just finding who can and who cannot. There's a lot of great platforms online. So feel free to just go scour the internet and just talk to people too, like email people. You might be shocked. Just a little bit of messaging or emailing might do for people. ArtStation now has a messaging thing, which is nice, and people have been messaging me there, and I've been talking back to them. It's nice.
Yeah. And also
And
don't forget too that your colleagues and your friends can also be great mentors. I feel
yeah,
like some of the
absolutely.
best mentors that I ever had was from people like Edgar and AJ. They're just kind of friendly competition, and because we had a strong community, they were kind of in a sense like my mentors because each one of them brought something to the table that they were really good at, and I was able to kind of ask them questions about that and learn from them. So a lot of times you can always go to your community, be a part of the community. That community can kind of be your mentor because if everyone kind of helps each other out, then everyone has something to kind of share and help out with, and I think that can be a really great way too, to kind of improve your work as well.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm going to take this opportunity to remind people that if you go to my website, uh, you can go to the section where it says classrooms and then stream chat. I'm going to sneeze. And then you can type any kind of questions you want to ask there. If you've been typing questions or comments in the respective stream that you're at, whether it's YouTube, Facebook, or whatever, um, transition and write your questions there.
All right, we have one more with that one with your thing
Go
with
for it.
your post. This one is kind of interesting. It's from Alexandre LeBlanc, and we know Alex. Alex, good guy.
Cool.
He wrote how to perform well in a 3D artist interview and get the job. It's very very specific.
So I don't think that's how it works. I don't think like people are like, we're just gonna pick a bunch of names out of a hat and then have no idea of their actual work and just kind of interview them and then see if just from the interview alone they got what it takes. Usually, uh, from my experience and what I would imagine is a much more sound strategy, which would be they would first find your work, they would first review your work, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and then they'd
Okay.
be like, this person's good. Then they would do a phone interview, right? And then that phone interview is a matter of just trying to see if you're a reasonable person, you know. And then the in-house interview is just to double down on that. Are you a reasonable person stuff? You know what I mean? I don't think it's a matter of like, like, okay, we're going to just interview this person, and then from that interview alone, we're going to determine whether we should hire them. I think they've already decided. They're just making sure, you know, that you're the best fit. In some cases, I would imagine there could be maybe multiple applicants, but even then, as long as you just be yourself and you just answer their questions sincerely and honestly, which I believe is the best strategy. You shouldn't kind of fake it till you make it type of
Yeah,
thing.
never don't lie.
Especially, yeah, especially in 3D, because like with 2D, you can kind of like fake like a lot of what you say because 2D, there's a lot of like, there's not a lot of technical barrier to try to get better, right? Um, with 3D, there's a lot of technical barrier, meaning that like if you don't
That's
have a really good strong hold on your technical skills, but you're like, oh yeah, I totally know Maya or whatever, right? And they bring you in and you absolutely have no idea how to use Maya. That is going to be very apparent very quickly to them. Okay. Versus like, oh yeah, I can totally paint like environments. Like I can go home and like practice it. The tools aren't in the way. It's just my skills, you know. Um, and I can just definitely kind of fake that as much as possible. But even then, it would be kind of, that's what I'm trying to say. Even then, it's sketch. So it's best to just be like, I remember I had an interview once too, internally at Blizzard, where my good friend Christian Lichner, he interviewed me too, and he asked me straight up, he's like, we really need an environment guy, you know, and I said, I don't do environments. And he's like, oh, what? And I was like, but listen, man, like, if you guys need an environment guy, like, I'll tell you right now, I love Diablo. I'll really work hard to try to be that guy and be able to fit in to the slot you guys need, you know? But I'll be quite frank, like, I don't, like, there's no environments in my portfolio. I don't generally seek out to do environments, but it's
That's funny
not,
you got that far, and they're like, "What, really?" You're like, "Where did you see environments from?"
yeah, no, and I remember I talked to Christian about that too. It was a good interview. They ultimately didn't pick me because I was pretty honest about it. And although I probably would have been fine, like even if I would have got the gig and worked with Christian and done all the environment stuff, you know what I mean? Like I'm sure I would have been fine. Like I'm sure it would have been hard and challenging, but I think I would have got through it, right? And plus because I love Diablo, so it would have been something, a challenge I would have been willing to take. And so and actually kind of sad that maybe I didn't get that opportunity because perhaps I would have been even better at environments than I am today because I would have been paid to be training myself to do that. Well, they wouldn't have been saying like actively, we're going to pay you like a month to train. Like I would have trained myself and as a
Yeah,
process,
just to
getting
learn.
paid during that time. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm doing 3D a lot in my work for my job, and so I'm like, yeah, I kind of view it the same way. I'm like, I'm getting paid to essentially practice 3D because I'm just using it in my work.
Absolutely. Yeah. Especially if the results are what they're looking for, should be fine.
Yeah, I've been doing some of those VR paintings a little bit. It's been helping out, so I mean,
Sick.
it's kind of fun doing it. But to kind of add to that, I would say remember that when you guys go in for an remember it's not just like whether remember it's as much an interview for them as it is for you. Like you should want to see if you fit in with the company culture. You may get there and then you kind of just look at the way things are run and maybe the people that work there and you could just be like, you know what, this like I don't think I would be happy here. Like the way the people are, like I don't think this is for me. And so when you go in for an interview, you should ask them questions just as much as they ask you questions, I feel like. Because it's kind of like going on a date. Like just because you're on a date doesn't mean like you're both meant to be. Like you're filling each other out. You want to see, do I like this person and do I want to work for this person? So like though they're the ones that hire you, it should be as much as an interview for them. Like you should see, do I fit in? And so that's why being yourself is really really important. Because if you're not being yourself, they could make the assumption and hire you, and then all of a sudden you get in there and then you be your regular self, and they're like, wait, who is this guy? Because we totally hired you off the way that you were acting, you know, from the interview, and then all of a sudden you're going to be, very very unhappy working for that company. So just literally just I think yeah, being honest and be yourself. Like that's a really big thing. Because again, you don't want to get in there and then it's like a totally different situation.
Word up. Wise words from the good old Kalen Chowks.
Yeah,
All right. All
do
right. So
not.
now we're going to the chat room, right? So let's go ahead and open this up for a bit. Let's check out what people said. So Kalen said hello, everyone. Vistri said hola. Stephen Yaffe said hi. Zabby, what's up, Zabby? Looking forward to Edge Control. I think I'll
Wait,
still be
are
able to
you going?
go. We'll see.
Wait, you're gone?
I'm gonna try, yeah.
I'm going.
But I got a babies, so we'll see.
Me and
It
Jacqueline
makes
are going.
my life a little bit more difficult with the
Hey,
little one.
just what's more important?
My little baby. All
What's
right,
more
moving
important?
on. Hola from Kevin Zavi, this is an interesting method. Smiley face. Oh yeah. Oh no, I'm scared of monsters, said Zivi. Wait, so the questions don't come from this room? I think I missed something. No, they do. I just had some questions prepared prior.
Had some lingering questions.
Yeah, and I think I'm going to do that forever on. I'm going to have questions prior and then questions on the chat, allowing people to. You guys can have these long talks and discussions in your guys' independent chats, and then have all the questions and stuff collected previously and here. So if you guys have more questions, feel free to go to the website and ask. Um, Hi AJ, do you give more personality to your monster/creature designs, or how do you give more personality? Um, I just think about what it is. So, for instance, and I read Brendan wrote like, I love that this guy has peace pipe. It's one feature that I always say: you just give a character a pipe, and then all of a sudden he has a character. And
Pipe?
yeah, just like a pipe, because it implies that they have like a habit, and that habit is a bad one. But he's a monster,
What?
so it seems like
A
he's
smoking
okay.
pipe?
Yeah, just like a pipe,
Oh, I thought about like a pipe, like a two by, like a
like
little
a
like
lead pipe. That's
you know how when we went to
such a
go
weird connection you made.
you know how we
Out of
went
all the things, yeah, give your character just a wooden plank, and it has tons of personality. Just give him a
no.
long stick.
Okay, remember that time we went to go to Massive Black San Francisco with Daniel and Jacqueline, and there was that
Uh,
homeless guy who went
oh
crazy
yeah,
and he found a pipe and
oh
he
yeah.
tried to like attack Dan with it, and I was sitting there like, dude, where do you get that pipe from? It's like Final Fight like 3, where like you pick up items as you're going through the game. Like it was like that. So that's what I thought you meant. Like give him a
Oh
pipe. I was like,
dude,
what? Like
you
it's a very specific thing
you're
to
a
give a
fool.
character.
It's funny that you tied it to that memory, all of that to just this homeless guy beating up on
That guy,
cars.
that guy had a pipe, and it was like a
Uh,
heavy pipe, and I'm just sitting there like, where did you find that? Like someone's pipe is missing. Like someone like the water's not gonna go all the way through what it's supposed to go through.
hey,
It's now going down the
where's my
street.
PVC pipe? I left it right here. I swear. Ah, yeah, pshing,
It's like
pshing.
why is the water not coming through?
Yeah.
It's some pipe is like not
Okay.
connected.
So, adding personality. I find that what makes characters in general, whether they're monsters or not, just giving them something that is not uh, that doesn't make sense. Sometimes, like something that's ironic, or something that just is like a thing that adds some sort of attribute to the character. So, for instance, like if I just go in here and start adding like a trinket of like necklaces or something like that, or like a necklace with a bunch of trinkets on it. I mean, um, this will give this character some personality, you know? Especially if I turn these trinkets into something that you can recognize. Like if I was to say that these were, uh, like, I don't know, like knives, like cooking knives, something like that. I don't know if I can paint a cooking knife. We'll see if I can. It's one of those things that I don't think I paint often, so it might be difficult.
Blades? You're painting some blades?
Oh, and then plates? That's a good idea.
No
You said,
blades.
I know you said blades, but I heard plates.
Oh,
Like I
blades.
knew you said, like as you said it, I knew that you did not say plates, but I heard plates, and I was like, that's a good idea, AJ. That
Yeah.
mishearing. But see, like why does he have like a kitchen knife and a plate? You know, it makes you start asking questions, and those types of questions add some character to your characters. And
Good
so,
question. Why are you
yeah,
putting?
because most of the time people will just draw like a really cool sci-fi looking character, which is totally fine, or like a medieval or fantasy character with like the basic stuff. But if you want your characters to kind of have that little bit of a zing, then yeah, you just got to add a little bit more to them. Yeah. Okay. Um, that's the way I'm going to answer that question. I want to take AJ's mentorship, but I'm not sure that my weird full-time retail work schedule will allow me to be able to attend all the sessions I will need to attend.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think the best way you can go is you just take the class and you can watch the recording. Some students actually have done that. I had one student who actually only was in 2 sessions, but he got a lot out of it. He said he still got a lot because he was able to submit his work. I reviewed his work, gave him the critiques that he needed, and then he would message me via Skype and just to let me know that he got it and that it made sense, or he didn't get it yet, and I'll have to like upload it really quickly. Um,
Yeah, you
but
can totally do that. I
but
actually had one for the job too.
yeah, there's some people that try to make it work. I won't lie. It's obviously going to be so much better if you're there live, able to ask me questions and talk with me, right? Because unlike the streams, I get a little bit more in depth. I will talk to you like individually, potentially for 20, 30 minutes, just to you and answering and talking with you live. So there's a lot of value in that. I understand, but if you are one of those people that just don't have the kind of setup that you makes it optimal, doesn't mean that you still shouldn't try. And that's not just me trying to sell my class. I'm just saying, if you generally want to take the class, I will do my best to make it the best for you. And if you don't, and you want to wait for that opportune time where it's more, you can get the best experience, then just hang tight. My classes will be around. He's probably respond to you, but I took his mentorship. Other students were working too, but everything is recorded, and you get. Oh, yeah. Thanks, Leo.
Yeah, you can definitely do it. Like I had one lady, one girl in my class that was working at a studio, and then she got like more work, and then she couldn't really take my class, but she was kind of sometimes would drop in, but never really had any homework, but she would watch the critiques, and then she was trying to kind of, you know, do her work based off the critiques, and then lo and behold, I got a message from her about a month, and I guess she got some new work, and she said that stuff that I was teaching from the mentorship like really helped her out with that. So she was like, "Thank you," even though she didn't really necessarily come to the class like one time, didn't
Yeah.
really say anything. So
I mean, I had students, and very rarely, where they sign up for the class, they have access to the class, and they even like show up, but they never turn in anything or talk.
never did anything.
Yeah, I even see them in there. I'm like, hey, and they're just like, nah, that's fine. And I mean, that's just how it is. I very rarely. Most people generally do want to hang out and talk, right? But whatever you can find to work. And right now, my classes have been sold out, so there's no access to them at the moment. But if you join the waiting list, I'll be sending out links probably this Wednesday, along with some other stuff. And so, feel free to join a waiting list if you ever want to just jump in. But in the meanwhile, just hang tight. Figure it out. What's best for you. I generally do not pressure people to try to do it. It's fine. It's like um, whatever works best for you.
Yeah,
I'm a
it's
big
what you make
fan.
it.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of trying to make people have realistic expectations and goals in their own specific lives. I don't get like very hard on people who have full-time jobs and are struggling to find time. Like I sympathize, and I try to figure out ways to make it easier for you. Um, all right, so let's see. Uh, Brendan, what's up, dog? I'm not sure. Oh yeah, you still here? What's up, homie? Cues. Would it be okay to scan and drawings and finish it in Photoshop? Would that be a good or bad idea? Any help would be nice. That's what I'm assuming what you wanted to ask. Yeah. At the end of the day, as long as the image, the final result is badass or really good quality, it does. No one really cares like how you do it. As long as you do it in a timely manner and it's good quality, you should be all right. It's just that generally speaking, working from like a 3D program or Photoshop or photo bashing is generally just a better tactic because digital tools are just so powerful. But I know plenty of people who do things traditionally still and do fine in the industry. They're very rare, though. I wouldn't be able to name dozens of them because most people these days are digital. It's the new evolution of concept art. And just so you know, most of these people did start traditionally originally and then transitioned because the transition isn't as difficult as it may appear. It just takes time. Thanks, Leo. I didn't know the sessions were all recorded. Holy shit, he pronounced my name exactly right the first try. Duh. Oh, yeah. Do come to Edge Control. It would be amazing. Looking forward to seeing you guys again. Yeah, I would love to go. We'll go to, what was it called? Brass. I forgot what it was called. Yeah.
Press roll.
Yeah, anyways. Zabby knows what I'm talking about.
Press roll. Got
Hey, Anthony, I was curious. Are there any specific artists that have greatly influenced your style? Too many to list, brother. There's so many. Just go to my art station and go to my like section. That's just a glimpse of kind of what it's like to be an influencer of mine. Um, but if I had to pick a handful, like if I had to pick one person that had to go live on a desert island, it'd probably be Leyendecker. Leyendecker was probably pretty impactful. And not necessarily his paint style, his paint methodology, the fact that he was so precise. that kind of made me think I can do that too, can't I? Um, oh snap! It's lit, fam. Damn, never thought of that. Hi, I have one question. Uh, which command do you rotate all the canvas horizontally? I think he meant to say, or she meant to say, how do you flip your canvas horizontally with hotkey? I have it hotkey to control W. You can change your hotkeys using keyboard shortcuts. Um, then rotate manually. I think he means flip the canvas. No, I mean mirror. Yeah, hi, the brush that you use to render the round one has texture? No, I'm just using regular round brush. By the way, is photo bashing used in character design? Yes. Like it, is it used frequently? Yes, it is. All right. If you guys have any more questions, just go to my website, and I'll answer maybe 2 more questions. So whoever wants to ask 2 more questions, feel free. And then I'm gonna call it a night. I'm gonna go hang out with the babies.
Word.
But yeah, like I said, I been learning a lot of web design though, and so as a consequence of learning game stuff, and like I'm really learning quite a bit. I'm learning this like hardcore coding, and it's a lot of fun. It's really really exciting. And so I think in the next year or so, I might have a real strong foothold in this game design stuff. It's really 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 nice. I'm gonna try to go to these local gaming events too, where there's like these indie developer conferences, and
Yeah.
start doing what I tell people to do, like putting your stuff out there, get feedback, talk to people,
Yeah.
make friends in the industry.
Go to Evo.
Yeah, I might actually do that. It's not a bad idea.
Yeah, I should do it.
I should make a fighting game and then go there and have people play it, and then just get some feedback.
Actually, that actually could actually be a legit thing that happens because there's a game called Dive Kick.
Yeah, of course, I've heard of that. I have that game.
Yeah. And that game, people were like, "What is this game? It's so stupid." And it's like, it's this dive kick, man. First person to get hit loses. And people play like legit tournaments on dive kick. They do like side pods, and it's just a funny game that someone made up because dive kicks in games are usually like very OP. And so someone made a game called Dive Kick, and then it's
Yeah,
like all the
it
characters and all the same moves. It's just a
yeah, it
dive
was a
kick.
Kickstarter thing, and I think people did really like people wanted it because it was kind of like a satire of the
Yeah,
whole genre, and
yeah,
and just like many satires, they get picked up to be actual things, right? Like there's this game genre that's emerging that actually my next game that I'm making is going to be inspired by, which is called idle games. It's the kinds of games where you don't really do anything other than like click on stuff and then you just leave. And then you come back, and then when you come back, your resources either doubled or quadrupled because of what you clicked to let that happen. There is no real punishment; it just keeps leveling up. You know what I mean? And you just keep checking in, and it's supposed to poke fun at like these types of games where you just grind for resources and leveling up. So it kind of makes fun of that because it just gets rid of the combat and gets rid of the exploration and all the other stuff that goes wrapped around that package, and it just basically makes you just tap things to get experience and points and money. And it was supposed to be just kind of be a joke, but then these games were like became very highly addicted and really fun. Actually, people enjoy it. I got one called Bitcoin Millionaire or Bitcoin Billionaire as a case study to see kind of how long I'll play and how consistent I play. And I've been playing it so far for several hours, and it's kind of funny because at this point I'm just like, yeah, this is like a legit thing. Like I'm genuinely engaged in this, and there's no real punishment, right? It's all completely random. It's not like anything you're entirely control, but it feels like you're in control. It's kind of weirdly rewarding. But like dive kick is a good example of that. Like it just you take something that people think like how could you build a whole fighting game around just the dive kick? Well, they just did. You know?
that game is so funny when people get. It's so funny how people get so hyped for it. Like they really cheer. They're like it takes a lot of skill, and it's just
I mean, at some level it does, right? It's
it
very
does.
basic, right? It's like the super basic, but it at some level it's not anywhere anything near like Third Strike, right? Or
Yeah,
Street Fighter Five or whatever. But like, but it still takes some sense of skill. It's like there's these whole competitions built around rock paper scissors, for instance. It's the same
oh
idea,
yeah, that's fun
right?
too.
It's like there's huge events. It's not like a small there's huge events that just people do rock and people just figure out the meta, right? Like they go into like the hardcore meta of rock paper scissors. Like
Mind games.
you know what I mean? Like they come up with names for certain patterns and strategies that people, and that's when you know people get real deep. Like the same thing is like in the fighting game industry, right? Like or fighting game competition thing. Like there's like a whole glossary of words that define different types of moves and patterns and player like techniques. For instance, there's stuff that I forget what it's called, but like there's something to be said about sitting next to your opponent where you can actually hear them hitting their gamepad, and
Yep.
there's a name for that
Shout out to
because
Richie.
yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like you don't even think about that as like a real strategy, but like people that get real into it, be like the fact that I can hear him doing this, and there's like a pattern, like they can hear that pattern. They know, oh, he's going to do this combo because he's playing this character. I did a thing, and the pattern that he does, it's typical, and I can punish him for that, you know. And there's some like pros who know this, so they actively like fake tap. They don't tap any of the real
They,
buttons.
they, they map buttons to they map empty buttons to
Yeah,
the
and I'm like, dude, that's so dope. That's so cool because
But it
it's
happened
like,
again, actually.
yeah, it's demonstrating like what I'm saying. Like so you take a game like Dive Kick and you think nobody can make anything of it, but I'm saying like people will. Like
Yeah,
people who
people
take it seriously, they'll find those types of like stupid little things that you
they'll
don't even
find
think about.
to
Yeah,
make it competitive.
and then,
Yeah,
then and then they like totally take it to another level. Yeah, and that's really cool to me. So like, yeah, don't laugh at like silly games until like
like
you.
what I'm saying is that they can any game is silly, even if you're making a game. It's because it's the people that are making games. You may make a game you think it's silly, but anything can go viral. Anything can kind of be hype. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? There's
totally.
guys behind it. You know what I mean?
People will
So
figure that
people
ish
will
out,
figure it
man.
out. Like Smash Brothers wasn't meant to be like a competitive game, but of
Oh,
course,
people got real
anytime, yeah,
hardcore.
people started breaking the game, and they're like, "What? I didn't know you could do half this shit." So again, anytime you put competition, go back to what you said about competition.
Yes.
When you make competitions about something, people will figure things out. Like that actually happened at Edge Control. I was playing Richie, one of the guys that was working the event, wanted to play me Street Fighter. He said, "Play you." I'm like, "All right." And I kept playing him, and then I was beating him. But I noticed every time I would dash in, he would just do like an unsafe move, and I'm like, "Why is he doing that?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's because he hears my controller." So the next time I do it, I'm like, I press a button, but I'm not really doing anything, and then he does it, and I was like, "What? You think I don't know? You listen to my controller?" And he's like, "Oh, damn it!" I was
That's
like, "Are you
cool.
stupid?" So it's like funny stuff like that. But yeah,
Yeah.
competition, people will find anything, will make anything competitive, like rock paper scissors, like arm wrestling. There's
Yeah.
money involved, or there's
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 those
bragging
nuances. Yeah, people will figure it out. And so, yeah, I'm a big fan of that. I think Dive Kick is a great example of that. Like you might not think that there's something there, but yeah, people figure it out. Like, have you seen like Rocket League, for instance? That's another good example. Like, it's a
Yeah,
silly
Rocket League.
game, but I saw like some footage of people doing some of the most craziest plays. Like, even if you know nothing about the game, right? Like just watching these people do like a complete backflip into the air with this little RC car, right? Hit this ball at full speed, and then their teammate flies out of nowhere and just like like spikes it into the goal. And you're just like, that's like some next level gaming, dude. Like those people know what's going on. Like they're in complete and utter control of this game,
That's like
and
the Lucio thing.
yeah,
Lucio.
they are absolutely in control, and it's impressive. Right? It's just really impressive to see that kind of play in any kind of game or sport, really.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm going to check the questions, see if there's any. Um, okay, Asia, any advice on writing cover letters? I've did a whole bunch recently, and I was curious about best practices. I actually just Google like templates and then just change
Oh,
like
you're one of those.
50% of it. Yeah, because most of those templates are actually really good, and cover letters are generally made just so they like it's more like an HR thing. I don't
Yeah.
think I've ever like made or break because of what I wrote in the cover letter. It's usually the portfolio. But yeah, if you just want to have like a legit one, just template and then change like I said like 50% of it. So that way it's definitely more personal. But like it's hard to come up with like really articulate ways of explaining stuff. So these templates are just a good starting point.
Well,
Um,
I'd also add to that. I would say do it if it's kind of like a company you're just applying for. But this kind of goes back to the idea of like, if you apply for a company that you really like, then you'll probably have much more to write about it. You can talk about the games that just knowing the company is really important. So a generic one can totally work for HR's sake, but if you do know the company and you're like a fan of their company and stuff like that, you should definitely kind of try to, in some way, shape, or form, express that passion. That usually does help. I mean, that's what kind of got me my job over with Wavedash, right? Because it's literally like, hey, I watch Street Fighter videos, and you do art, so you know about fighting games, about the fighting game community, and I'm like, oh yeah, sure. It's like, let's have lunch, and I go have lunch with the CEO, and we're just talking about fighting games or whatever like that, and I'm like, yeah, we like you to come work with us, right? Not really because, I mean, the work is definitely kind of the selling point, but it's like, oh, he does work, and like he's part of the culture, the company culture. So if you are a part of that and you do like that kind of stuff, I would suggest definitely put it in the cover letter if you can. But more times than not, what you said is right. It is definitely kind of an HR thing. I don't think anyone's ever said his cover letter wasn't as good as this guy's, but his work is bad. It's really good. So we're
Yeah,
gonna hire this guy.
yeah. I wouldn't lose sleep over it. And there's some comments about photo bashing. Yeah, some people don't like the photo bash. Just don't photo bash. There's no need to force feed
Yeah,
yourself that.
don't
Um,
do.
yeah, I don't photo bash, and I do well. But here's the thing: I can if I wanted to. I spent some time to practice it and learn it because it's just there's some piece of advice I want to give here. It's foolish to knock something off just because you prefer not to do it. If you want to be a true professional, you should try everything, and you should try everything with a little bit of enthusiasm. There should be one thing that you master, right? Like I prefer painting, so this is something that I am the best at in terms of all my skill sets, right? But I can do a little bit 3D and photo bashing and all these other techniques. And it's actually very useful because there are situations where I'm like, yes, photo bashing is the most ideal tactic right now. And the fact that I can do it didn't hold me back, right? And and so if I can't do it, then I have to rely on whatever skills I do have. And that could actually be potentially
Be bad.
detrimental, especially if you were more, if you believe that you're able to accomplish faster. Um, and so my advice generally is, yeah, you should be actively practicing all sorts of tools, but at the same time have one tool that you really, or one process and method that you genuinely focus on. You know, like generally, like that. This is the thing. This is your thing that you want people to know you for.
Right.
And it could be photo bashing. There's a lot of great artists who do great artwork through photo bashing. You know, a lot of them are good friends of mine, and so I highly recommend you reconsider that it's not the worst. If you consider painting something that you generally like more, then yeah, stick with it. There's nothing wrong with that either. And there's plenty of genres of games and films that um, like the filmmakers and the game makers are big fans of the traditional aesthetic, so they'll reach out to you, especially if you have what they're looking for. And so I highly recommend. Uh,
You want to come at it from the mindset of like, I can do it. I'm just choosing not to, as opposed to saying like I can
yeah,
only do this and I have to rely on it. So it's like saying like I could play the best character in the game, but I don't want to. Right? I want to pick something that's maybe a little bit harder or something that I'm inclined to want to pick. So it's like I could use these crazy brushes to paint this and do it fast, but I don't want to. I want to paint it this way. But if I wanted to, I could. So you're not relying upon it. What you don't want to do is say, "Oh, I need photos. If I don't have photos, I can't do something." As opposed to saying, "Yeah, I can do photos. I can do regular painting, and I can pick and choose whichever one I want to do."
yeah.
So it's best to, yeah,
Give yourself. There's a great thing that one of my friends, Bill Yang, once told me. He said, you know, uh, be like be good at everything, but a master at one. And I think that's a great strat. Like have a good skill set in anything and everything that makes sense with what you do, but have something that you're a master at, right? So you can always rely on that tactic. I generally tell people to focus though. So to that comment, to anyone who's like looking into it, I would say focus in on the painting stuff for a while, right? Like do photo bashing or 3D stuff here and there just to learn it. But most of your time and effort should be in the thing that you want to do mostly. And then as you get better and better at it, you'll have more opportunity and more time potentially to try other stuff, because you'll have that other thing to fall back on. All right, I'm gonna stop right here, guys. I appreciate everybody. I appreciate all the support. Appreciate everyone hanging out in the chats, whether you were in the Facebook or the Twitch or wherever you may be at. It's all good. I appreciate you. And with that being said, I'm gonna end the stream. And for future questions, I might post on my Facebook and ask questions there. So feel free to write questions whenever I make those types of posts. My goal is to do kind of what we were joking about in the early part, right? I was like saying, Monster Mondays. Like I want to kind of do a thing where I do like at least. I really am trying to get it to at least 2 or 3 times a week, right? And so I'm going to try to do that now that I talked to my wife about it too, because I think the problem wasn't so much me, it was more like just my schedule, because there would be times where I can do it, but other times where I have to catch up on work, and then other times where I'm just trying to learn stuff, and other times I'm trying to take care of other responsibilities. And all this is subordinate to just me hanging out with my fams, taking care of the babies. So with that being said, peace out, friends. We'll peace out on the Twitch peeps. And then next up's going to be the Facebook peeps. Laters. And then next up is the